Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back. And if you are just tuning in with me for the very first time, it's so nice to meet you. And I'm really glad you're here with me today. I am your host, Heather Carey, nutritionist, chef, mom, and a woman who has been around the block with food. I want to open up about real food in relation to health, weight, and our bodies so you can make peace with what you eat. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Real Food Stories podcast. Today, I have Stavros Mastrogiannis with me. Stavros is a 29-year veteran in the weight loss field and the founder of the Stavros Method. Growing up on a Greek island surrounded by people who were thin, healthy, and commonly lived productive lives well into their 90s, Stavros learned the 5 ancient secrets. Unique insights on weight loss, nutrition, and longevity that very few weight loss experts know. Stavros graduated from the Culinary Institute of America, and he uses this prestigious training to teach audiences not only how to eat, but what delicious foods to eat to help propel forward momentum in the weight loss process. Stavros' insights also help to develop the habits necessary to sustain and maintain optimum weight. Stavros, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I wanted to get you on the show today because I wanted to focus on the benefits of the Mediterranean diet. And since you grew up in Greece and are in the nutrition field, I know you can be a great resource for people who don't know a lot about the Mediterranean diet, even though it's always publicized as the best way to eat. But we also talked when we were off air, not just about the what to eat, but you have your theories on the Mediterranean diet and the how to eat.
Yep.
So you gave me some insights that I didn't really necessarily know about or give, a lot of thought to, because it's always about the what to eat. Right. So let's talk about first you just growing up in Greece, how that was, what your diet was like, and what you learned from that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Basically, I lived in Greece in the 70s and 80s. And as a kid, grew up. I never really thought about our diet because that's the way we ate. In other words, nobody gave it any thought as far as eating healthy or losing weight or getting in shape. Just the way we ate. We're not doing it to be healthy. We're doing it because that's the way we were raised to eat. Couple of big contrasts of the way that we live here is like number one, as a child, yes, we did eat sometimes breakfast, sometimes we did not. It was something that we did not. The parents did not push on us to absolutely must have something in the morning. And when we went to school, the school itself didn't have a lunch break. So basically, there was a little store that would sell sandwiches or small snacks. And my mother used to give us money. And between periods, usually we had like a 10-minute or 15-minute break between periods. If you were hungry, you went and got yourself a snack. The funny part was, like, I remember as a child that it was drilled into our heads to make sure we did not ruin our appetite for lunch. We had to be home. I think I trying to remember, like, at 1:45 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Then we ate lunch, and I remember as a kid that if I hadn't eaten at school my snack by 12 o'clock, I would not dare eat anything because I knew when I got home I had to be hungry. In other words, you got in trouble. And there was something that it was drilled into our heads. Like, for example, like out of 350 kids in my school, literally there were 3 kids overweight out of that many. Everybody else was a normal weight. And the other big contrast is, like, the school on a regular basis, we took field trips. Like once a month, we'll go on the field trip. So we'll go to the beach or up to the mountain. And then, it was like an hour and a half hike. And we play for 3 or 4 hours, then we went back to school. And the biggest difference is nobody worried about bringing snacks with us or water or anything. We just went and came back and with no snacks. Nowadays, if we do like an event for a couple of hours, everybody worries about, what to bring, what to eat. And that, I thought that was a very big difference. Now, adults on the other, let me finish as a child. So we went home, we had our lunch. Then we did our homework, and then we went out, and we were outside playing in the neighborhood for hours until my mother would go out to the balcony and yell our name, and we'll hear it, and we'll come back home because there were no telephones at that. Actually, we never had a telephone when I was in Greece. So, uh, but so basically, even as a child, we were not doing this snacking nonstop throughout the day. And when we came home, and our dinner was a light dinner, it was usually leftovers, whatever we had for lunch, it was leftover for dinners. And another interesting contrast is that we never complained that, oh, I ate this already for lunch. Why would I want to have for dinner? And you know what I mean? Then nowadays people use words like it's boring. Food cannot be boring if if you're truly hungry, right? Would you agree?
Right.
So, and that's how, that's how all most of the children were raised. So we ate, yes, as children we ate more often than adults, that's for sure. Adults, on the other hand, only really ate lunch and dinner. That was the two times they ate. And a lot of times, especially if you worked in the quarries, breaking rocks, or in the fields, a lot of times you only ate one meal. Breakfast was something we had on the weekends. And that's always got me when I watch shows about the Mediterranean diet and they talk about what we ate for breakfast. What these shows are talking about is what we had for breakfast on the weekends. During the week, most adults did not eat anything. They had the coffee, the Greek coffee, and it's like same as Turkish coffee. It's the same coffee. Sometimes people refer to as Greek coffee. Some people refer to as Turkish coffee. And they went to work and then had lunch and dinner. Now, I think another big difference is like lunchtime, we had a 2 hour, no, 3 hour lunch break because people stopped working at 2 and I think they went back to work at 5. So we ate lunch. We took our time, which I think it's part of the healthy behavior about eating, but taking your time eating, not wolf your food down because you have 5 minutes to eat your lunch and you have to go back to work. And I think that makes a big difference. And then they will go back to work, and then we'll come back later in the evening, and we have a very light dinner. And again, leftovers from lunch, whatever we had left over, we ate for dinner most of the time. The funny part is in the villages, that's where my mother was raised. The opposite was true. They had a light lunch and a heavy dinner. Why? Because in the villages, people worked in the fields during the day. So they knew if I ate a very big lunch, I can go back out in the fields and keep working. So they had a very light lunch and a big dinner. And I remember as kids, like in September, they would take us out of school for a couple of weeks and we'd go collect olives. That was the tradition. Well, when we did that, automatically our dinner became a heavy meal and lunch became a light meal. Like instinctively, they knew that, hey, if I eat big lunch, I won't be able to go back to work. So let me make it very light. And that's how life, was.
So yeah, so far I'm just hearing about the how you ate, right? I
Okay.
mean, and like I said at the beginning, most when you look up the Mediterranean diet and Google, or how to eat the best diet, it's always like, okay, here's your list of foods to eat,
Yeah,
right? So let's talk. I want to get back because I have a lot of questions about this, the
sure.
the how part. But let's just talk about what you were eating then, because that
Perfect.
has to factor, I think, into, you said the kids in the school, no one was overweight. What
Yeah.
about other health issues? Did you find people to be relatively just healthy overall?
Yes. As a matter of fact, actually, as a kid, I actually thought that cancer was a rare disease because nobody had cancer. Matter of fact, never mind, I didn't know anyone that had cancer. I know anyone who knew anyone who had cancer. Like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, those diseases did not exist. As a matter of fact, I learned about them when I first moved to the States because in Greece, we didn't have those diseases. Like uh, all these, like heart disease, all those things that we consider normal nowadays. I'm sorry. Now it's something that we didn't experience that. Did people have heart attack? Yeah, I knew some people had heart attack. It wasn't like nobody had them, but it was rarely, or like blood sugar problems. That was something that you did not encounter on a regular basis. Like the average person in their 90s lived independent. Matter of fact, we had a nursing home in my home city that was empty because there was no need for it. Now, as a matter of fact, I didn't even know why they built it to begin with, to be honest with you. Now the nursing home is full. And unfortunately, things have changed a lot. As far as like the what we ate, I think that all the studies that I've seen on that, they do a pretty good job on that. I gotta admit, like a typical diet, I would say we ate meat once or twice a week, and the meat a lot of times, because to me there's meat and there's meat. The the meat, the animal is raised the right way. The meat is much better. So a lot of the meat that we ate was our own chickens, our own goats, our own animals, and which we took care of, and they lived a very good life, a very uh, raised naturally, no hormone, none of the stuff. The milk that we drank, it was sheep or goat mostly. We didn't have too many cows. I mean, the area didn't have that many cows, and sheep's milk. Goat milk has a, I don't know if you ever had goat cheese, has a distinct taste. So we had
Mhm.
sheep, and the milk wasn't pasteurized like they do here. Yes, we did boil it, but you know how many times I would drink milk directly from the goat? Directly. And nothing
Okay.
happened, which actually helps. I know a lot of people look at that like, oh my God, I can't do that.
Risky, right?
Yes, it's different. But it
But here
really,
you are. You lived.
yeah, exactly. Obviously, I'm still alive. But the thing, all that stuff that our milk, it was, or we had our own milk, or we had the guy with the donkey going around the town delivering milk. And you had like the little glass bottles, which he would fill it in, but it was not pasteurized milk. And like I said, sometimes as kids, we would have milk in the morning or nothing. But it was really, if we had them, it was something very light. With cereal, only at the end, like in the 80s, cereal starts coming around. Because in the 70s, late 70s, it wasn't really milk was the only thing the kid would have in the morning if they ate anything. Cereal came more in the 80s. I remember right before I came to the States in 87, the last few years, we started having there were no Cheerios at that. Well, cornflakes were one of the first ones that got there. So, and the rest of our diet, no, we had fish, I would say once a week. It's kind of funny because a lot of people say, oh, you're on an island. Did you eat fish all the time? Like, actually, we did not. We ate fish, I would say, once a week. And the rest of the time, we were truly vegans. We ate a diet, like if you look at the traditional Greek dishes, most of them are vegan dishes, like casserole dishes, like beans, like a lot of zucchinis we ate. Eggplant is very popular. Um, so those are the typical dishes we used to have, and everything swam in olive oil. Because I think a lot of people don't realize that a lot of people say, oh, if I eat vegan, if I have my protein, I don't feel satisfied. Yes, but if you took a vegan dish and you put plenty of olive oil in it, you're going to be as satisfied as you had a steak. Because I know myself, like a lot of the Greek dishes my mother makes, it has a lot of olive oil. When I eat them, I feel satisfied, just like you would have a steak. I think when you went vegan and low fat, that's when you made the diet less satisfying. I think you were missing something.
Oh yeah. Well, you're missing the satiety. I mean, the
Yes.
flavor of it. I mean, the olive oil, right? Fat carries flavor in
Yep,
food, right?
exactly.
So yeah, so having more olive oil is not only, we know it's healthy for you, but yeah, it probably added a lot of flavor to your food.
Exactly. And the other thing too is, well, I think that's one thing that makes a big difference is that because we ate slowly and I took our time. Remember, I always tell this to people that think about it. When do you get pleasure from food? Right? When the food is in your mouth. Well, the longer you keep each bite of food in your mouth, don't you get more pleasure from less food? That is why I think it's, 'cause nowadays, if you, let's say I'm eating, but I'm doing work on the computer or I'm watching TV, how much pleasure do you get out of you eating? Not that much. You lose some of it. That's why I think you end up eating more than you really need to.
Well, you barely even know what you're eating, right? I
Oh,
mean, you're
yes.
sitting like, clicking away on your computer and you're just eating, with the other hand. Sometimes you barely, you're like, oh, I finished my food.
Oh, yep.
With
That's
no
funny.
thought.
Yeah, that's funny because when I first came to the States, I picked up some bad habits and I became a really fast eater. And how many times I would be eating and all of a sudden look down on my plate because I was doing other things. And I'm like, wait a minute, it's empty. When did I finish eating? But I don't feel satisfied. So I felt like I had to get up and get more food. And I think those are things that also play a role in the diet. Now, the other thing that we used to eat, like bread with everything. We had bread with pasta, actually. Like pasta, potatoes, and rice was something pretty much we ate every day. Now, all three of them, one of the starches. We always had some kind of a starch, a lot of beans. We have a lot of bean recipes. And it's kind of funny though how, as a child, I never liked the beans. Like, yeah, there's a dish called yigadis, which is lima beans, like a big beans in a type of tomato sauce. And I used to hate it as a child. Now it's one of my favorite Greek dishes. And it's kind of funny how your taste buds sometimes change also. So, but, and again, and I think that we ate a lot of starches, but because we ate less often, we ate out of true hunger, we ate slow and mindful, so we did not stuff ourselves. That's why I believe that although we ate a lot of starches, it did not affect our weight or health. Where nowadays, a lot of times that people say that, oh, bread is fattening or pasta is fattening. Well, technically speaking, everything can be fattening. It depends. Are you overeating it? And I think that's the problem is because we mindlessly nowadays, I think that's part of the problem that we're overeating a lot of the foods.
Well, we're also
Now,
eating highly processed
yes, yep.
carbohydrates and a lot of sugar and a lot of refined foods. So I imagine that the bread you were eating was homemade, and is that true, or is it?
Yes. The bread that was made, a lot of the bread actually, some was homemade a lot of time the local bake shop, but the bread actually has like three ingredients in it. You know what I mean? And even the flour that itself, it was a more of it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was whole wheat flour, but it was more of a full grain flour. It wasn't like the bread that we have today. The bread, it was different bread and doesn't have 20 ingredients, and half of them you don't even know what they are. Uh, and the same thing with the pasta. I think a lot of the ingredients, unfortunately, have been modified. And I think that also plays a role. And I think that, yes, you could say bread is somewhat refined, but that was only one small part of everything we ate. All our food were less refined, were more wholesome foods. And I think dipping it in the sauce, which has tons of olive oil, also slowed down the absorption of the bread because a lot of times we use bread, we didn't eat it by itself. Most of the time we would dip it in the sauce and we eat it. But the sauce is a lot of it's olive oil. So again, it slows down the absorption of the carbohydrates into your system.
Yeah, no, that's a all really good point. What about nuts and seeds? Any emphasis on?
We ate nuts regularly because we had a lot of almond trees and walnut trees. It's kind of funny actually that you mentioned that in my uh, I think it's not middle school, the 1 through 6 grade. In the courtyard of our school, we had almond trees. And I don't know if you ever had almonds before they get hard.
I
They
have
usually the
not.
almonds are green, and if you break them open, you still see the almond, but the almond is actually soft, and you almost taste like cucumber. And as kids, we used to actually go and pick them and eat them. And it's like really soft, like and it's very watery actually. And we used to eat those things a lot. Or we had walnuts. So we had a lot of almonds and walnuts were the two type of nuts that we used to eat regularly. And the other big thing was pumpkin seeds. Like like when you go to the movie theater, people have popcorn and Coke. In Greece, we had pumpkin seeds. That
Oh,
was
interesting.
the snack that we have in the theater. But because the bag is about really small bag, and because you do one at a time that wasn't pre-peeled, well, guess what? You didn't eat that much, but it kept you occupied.
Yeah, that is interesting, right? It's not like you could just open the bag and
Yeah.
put it down your down your mouth. Anything else that you were eating that stands out to you? I mean, it sounds like to me so far, I mean, like all good, lots of vegetables. We didn't really talk about fruits, but tell me about
Oh,
fruits.
yes. Fruits, again, there was another thing that, yes, we ate fruit almost every night. Like usually my mother would have dinner. And by the way, not just my family, that was the typical family. After you would have your dinner, most of the time my mother would peel us apples, but apples, oranges were the main ones, and then in season like cherries, a lot of apricots. In the fall we had grapes, so we went by the season too. Like in the wintertime, we had tangerines. We had a lot of tangerine trees and oranges. And in the fall, we had a lot of apples and a lot of grapes. But it was something we ate almost every night after dinner. So we had like dinner, and then we always had some kind of a fruit. It was a tradition.
So I'm not hearing you say anything about anything. This is now 70s and 80s, right? So no like
Yes.
really added sugars or processed foods or refined, ultra
Oh,
refined grains.
the, uh, the only like junk food, I will always say to people, we need to make junk food special because junk food was meant to be a treat. I remember as a kid, once a week, if there was a good movie on TV, my mother would go out and get us popcorn and Coke. That was a snack, but it was something we had. I would say junk food we had once or twice a week, like a piece of chocolate. It was such a big deal that we got to have it, or ice cream. I remember ice cream, by the way, you couldn't even buy it in the wintertime anyway. Ice cream was only available in the spring, summer, and by the end of the summer, then they stopped selling it. So even if you wanted, you couldn't do it. Chocolate. So junk food was something you ate on the weekends. It wasn't something we ate all the time. And I think that the body can tolerate some bad food because either way is bad. However, though, I was looking at it actually recently. If you look at a Greek chocolate and you compare the ingredients to a chocolate that's made here, the Greek chocolate, I think has I think it was like 5 or 6 ingredients. Don't remember all the ingredients, but it was 5 or 6. Look at it like a Hershey's chocolate. It has like I think like 10, 15 ingredients. Why?
It's not even chocolate,
Wow,
right?
yeah.
It's like all sugar. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like really not. I don't even know if you could classify Hershey's like as chocolate, even though they can call it chocolate. But
Yeah, exactly. And of course, I'm sure you know about all the Greek desserts, the baklava, the galactoburiko, a lot. But those things were very high in sugar, but those things were only on holidays, like Christmas, Easter, like baklava was something you had around the holidays only. Easter and Christmas are our main ones, and there's some other minor ones. But again, you end up eating it, I would say maybe 4 times a year. That was it. It wasn't something that you have all the time. But again, something that has changed, even in Greece now, it's something now it's available all the time. Like I remember there's a Greek sweetbread. You could only get it on Easter. It was something that even if you wanted to buy it, it wasn't available. And every Easter, they used to make it. And I used to love the bread. Now you can get it whenever you want. It's more, by the way, I call it bread. It's really a cake. It's really a sweet cake. And again, and I think that's what, unfortunately, even in Greece now, if you go back, that go back all the time, people have become more overweight. They have the same health issues as we do here. Unfortunately, a lot of the people, they no longer live the way we used to. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I think we talked about fasting. That was another part that was part of our culture. And the fasting, by the way, just to define, there's 2 types of fasting. There's fasting that you don't eat, and there's a fast that we did 4 times a year where you eliminated all animal products. So we're basically strict vegans, no milk, no butter, nothing. And those fasts lasted like 40 days before Easter. There was, I think, 1 week in June, a couple of weeks in August, and 2 weeks before Christmas. So notice that every quarter of the year, basically, we had some form of uh, let's call it vegan fast, where you ate no animal products. Studies have shown that practice alone is extremely good for your health, that type of practice. And then we had a regular, like before you receive communion had to fast for 24 hours. Forgot to mention,
with no food.
no food at all.
Okay.
And the other thing, throughout the year, you're not allowed to eat meat on Wednesdays and Fridays throughout the year. That was it. But although we didn't eat the meat to begin with, that much meat to begin with, but that was part of the practice that you're not supposed to eat meat every Wednesday and Friday. So the Wednesday and Fridays, you always had vegan dishes.
Okay. So let's like summarize this because it sounds like there's two things going on. One, I mean, you said that there was almost no health issues. So is it the food itself, or is it the fasting and like that, those behaviors and habits? But when food became more mainstream, like Americanized, in Greece, right? Health issues
Yeah.
started going up.
I actually think it's a combination of the two. I think both things play a role. So I don't want to say one or the other because I think both are important. Obviously, because the one thing that has changed the most is like for introduction of breakfast. Like in Greece, when I was there, no breakfast at all. Now everybody eats breakfast. And that's one of the biggest changes. And all of a sudden we're eating more often than we used to. I don't want to say one is more important than the other. I think both play a role. So I think it's a combination of, well, this is the way I put it the when you learn how to eat, in other words, how often you eat, eating slow and mindful, stop eating when you satisfy your hunger, the more forgiving your diet becomes. So, yeah, in other words, it gives you a little bit more leadway to not eat the perfect food and still get away with it. Ideally, I think you gotta eat really good food. I do believe the less processed the food, the better off you are. Like the fruits, for instance, the fruits will ripen on the tree. And guess what? A lot of them were bruised. Nothing wrong with a bruised fruit.
Yeah.
Or nowadays, like the apple, you can't even eat the peel anymore because they put the wax film on it. So, that's something we didn't do in Greece because nobody worried about, oh, the apple has a little bruise that I'm not going to buy it. Nowadays, they go so much about the way that the food looks instead of, is it good for you?
Living in that time and just being in the lifestyle of not eating breakfast and it sounds like only eating when you're hungry,
Yes.
right? Physical hunger versus like emotional reasons, slowing down, eating mindfully. I mean, that all work in that environment. So I know one of your quotes, you have it on your website, is weight loss has less to do with what you eat and more to do with how you eat. Here in the United States, with our busy lifestyles and we're chronically stressed and we're going. And how does that work? I mean, is this something that you still prescribe?
Yes. That's a good question. Actually, it works extremely well. You know why? Because number one, I teach my clients to eat less often, but which means if you eat less often, you have to worry about, in other words, if you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, snacks in between, and you want to eat healthy, that means 3 or 4 or 5 times a day, you have to worry about what to eat. If you're eating only twice a day, well, it's only 2 times a day that you have to worry about making a better choice. So you automatically eliminate, like for instance, a lot of my clients say, "Oh, thank God, since I started eating breakfast, now I have more time in the morning to get up more relaxed. So I have to worry about eating healthy breakfast and then run." And a lot of them all of a sudden started walking in the morning because all of a sudden they have an extra 5 or 10 minutes because they don't have to worry about eating their breakfast. So I'm finding actually people have more time by learning how to eat and also saves the money on their food bill. Because a lot of people say, well, eating healthy is expensive. I'm like, well, it could be. But if you're eating less often and you're eating only 2 times, well, you can spend more of your budget on buying healthier food because you only eat twice instead of eating 3 or 4 times. You see what I mean?
I understand what you're saying, but I also feel like if you skip breakfast, I'm not a fan of it. I can't make it past like 30
Yeah.
minutes in the morning. I'm like, I need to like fuel myself with something. But I feel that if you skip meals, you're skipping opportunities to nourish yourself. It's not just about like losing weight for me isn't just about lessening your calories. I mean, right, we know that you can just reduce calories and lose weight,
Yep.
but you have to make your food really count that. I mean, you have to be really mindful about what you are eating
Yes, I
for your
found,
health. Not
yeah.
just it's not just, in my world it's not just about weight loss for the sake of losing weight. I want people to be as healthy as possible. So if you skip a meal, you're missing an opportunity to add in really healthy nutrients into your diet. I totally get though what you're saying about the breakfast, lunch, dinner, and 2 snacks a day, and the constant worrying about food and constantly worrying about, am I going to be hungry? Like that. That's a is that an American thing? That like our kids are going to be hungry. We have to
Yeah.
you go to the soccer game and there's like tons of snacks and it's like crazy. It gets out of control. So I don't believe in that, but
I
I
agree
have
with
I
you.
have my opinions
Yeah.
on
Oh
like
no, of course.
skipping like entire meals, but
I
it sounds like you, I mean, this is how you were raised and it was working. And so that's
yes,
what I'm just trying to get to the bottom. Like, is it the
yes.
food or is it
It's
these
both.
habits or both or
It's both. I mean, obviously, I mean, there's other aspects of our lifestyle where I think makes a big difference. In other words, low stress. We had a very low, laid back attitude. We didn't let things get to us. You know what I mean? Nowadays, people stress over things that shouldn't be stressing. We had a more of a laid back attitude. Honestly, sometimes even today, they still have a much laid back attitude than we do here. And sometimes when I go to Greece, I still have to kind of like I'll give you an example really quick. We set out to go out for dinner with my cousins. Okay, we told them 9 o'clock, meet you at dinner. Great. They show up at 10 o'clock. Not even I'm sorry, I'm running late. Nothing. Let's demo showed up. Like it's not a big deal. It's not like no things are
that would
more.
never work here.
I know that's why that one I don't suggest. But I also agree with what you said before. I look at weight loss as a side effect of taking care of your health. It's a side effect. It's not what we look. It to me, if you do the right things, weight should come off. But because to me, there's ways to lose weight that are extremely unhealthy. That doesn't work either. To me, it's like whatever you do to take care of your health, and I look at good the weight loss as a natural side effect of taking care of your health, and that's the way I also do. So I agree with you 100% that weight loss is a side effect I'm looking for by taking care of your health. But I found that applying what I learned in Greece here actually, in a way, works really well. And I do find that people can still get good nutrition with their two meals. They still get enough of good nutrients that keeps them in really good shape. Um, but and then again, if you look at other healthy regions around the world, they pretty much eat the same way as we did. Because remember, I took nutrition here too. And I remember in school, I learned about breakfast, most important meal of the day. And it contradicted my upbringing. And that's when I started researching. And then if you really look at breakfast studies, they're paid by cereal companies. And I think the reason too much conflicting information in our industry is because too many special interests pushing their products. And I think I would say even myself, the first 10 years in the industry, I was as confused as everybody else because I kept reading things that completely contradicted each other. And I'm like, well, what would be a good example to follow? Well, let's look at healthy regions. And that's when I'm like, wait a minute, I was raised in one. Because when you're young, you don't think that way. And and the rest of it history. And that's where I started discovering these five simple habits. Oh, before I was saying before, but the low stress I think is also very important. Controlling our stress, I think that's killing us. Also, exercise, obviously, I think we all can agree on. But what I've done with exercising is that I incorporate it into my day in small increments. Like in Greece, there was no gym, but because of everyday life, we walked everywhere, we lifted things, but it wasn't a workout. It was part of our life. And I try to incorporate, even for myself and to my clients, the same way. Incorporate the exercise into your life so it becomes part of the routine, like brushing your teeth or combing your hair. You don't have to think about it, just part of your morning routine or afternoon routine or before going home routine.
Yeah, I mean, the breakfast thing, I agree with you. I don't think that anyone should force themselves to eat, if they're
Yeah.
not hungry. I just also, but on the flip side, I don't feel like you should restrict yourself if you feel hungry
Yes. Yep.
and and we're getting some information about just not eating breakfast and intermittent fasting and like
Yep.
it's healthier because I can't live without
Yeah.
breakfast. I like literally like I'm not a human being until I have breakfast. So I just like I know it works for me, and I think that that's my bigger point too is that everyone should eat in the way that works for them. I mean, I'm a big fan of breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I
Yeah.
rarely do I snack because I don't need to. I don't feel, I'm not pressured to or feel like I have to. This is what works well for me. And I think everyone should do what works the
Oh,
best for
absolutely.
them, right? Because then it turns into a diet and then there's
Yes.
like strict rules and I guess for my clients and myself, I'm trying to get away from that, keeping like strict rules.
Yeah, too many strict rules backfire usually.
Yeah. I mean, and then I know like, with stress and then, even exercising, it would be great. Yeah, moving, just all if moving, we're so sedentary, most of us, we're sitting in chairs all day long and then maybe you have to go to the gym. And if you can't make it to the gym, then there's no exercising to be done. And so I agree with you with the just moving as much as you can. And
Yeah,
it
it's a
doesn't,
lot of little things that we can all do, like, every day. Like, you can do some squats, you can do some push-ups against the wall. There's a lot of little things that you can add, like, between clients, and that have 5 minutes. Well, those 5 minutes, instead of just sitting there looking at my TikTok videos, well, you can do some push-ups. You know what I mean? We all have 2 and 3 and 4 minutes between things that we waste on social media. Yeah, nothing wrong with social media once in a while, obviously, but we waste too much of our time, and to me, it's that there's so much little time that we can recover in our every day, that we can use that for more productive ways.
yeah, exactly. I totally agree. I mean, when you start talking about this stuff, like
Yeah,
our stress levels and the social
yeah,
media, we're like, we're doomed. But I mean, we have to make our choices, right? We have to be mindful of staying off of social media or the 24/7 news and
yes, I
TV and
know.
getting sucked into that. And yeah, so there's a lot that we can do and a lot that we can learn from the places, like places in the Mediterranean and that lifestyle of just slowing down. And hopefully, where you're from doesn't totally adopt the American lifestyle.
Yeah, no, it's funny though, because when I go back to Greece, and I go often, a lot of my friends they ask, "Well, what's the latest on in diet and nutrition and everything else?" He goes, "Guys, talk to your grandparents. Talk to your
Yeah,
grandparents. They already know the solution." But back to what we're talking about before, adapting things. And I think that's another area that, unfortunately, the industry, I think they've taken the wrong approach. What I tell my clients is that identify one healthy behavior that you like to adapt into your life. Adapt into your life, make it part of your life. Then identify another healthy behavior. And even myself today, I'm always looking for things I can adapt into my life to make me even healthier. But I do one at a time instead of trying to change all your bad eating habits at once, which we all know that doesn't work because you create so much discomfort that you're going to quit. Instead, is apply one habit at a time. Find something that works for you that you would like, add it to your life, make it part of your routine, overcoming the obstacles that get in your way of adapting that habit into your life. Once you've done it, go to the next habit, go to the next habit. You start them. Let's say you're making one healthy change every month, just one. By the end of the year, you're going to have 12 changes. And you know what difference that could make? And that's the
exactly.
way that I like to advise my clients to adapt new habits. Don't try to change everything at once because it doesn't work. But unfortunately, we are a society that wants, change by tomorrow.
Oh yeah, we want quick gratification,
Yeah,
but we have to learn to just slow down a little bit and just right,
exactly.
take it one step at a time.
People that want fast results. I always tell people, losing weight and getting in shape by changing one habit at a time, it only seems slow because in reality, it's the fastest way to lose weight because you only have to do it once. You go through it once and you change all the habits because you change behaviors. You have to do it again. The fast way, in most cases, is the slowest way because you have to keep losing the same weight over and over again every year.
That's a really good point, right? And so you right, learn the good habits, then you only have to do it once. You don't have to keep sliding back, going in a yeah,
Exactly.
a hamster wheel of doing it over and over because that's really defeating and frustrating. So I think to wrap this up, I've heard a lot. There's the food component, right?
Yep.
Eating like a Mediterranean diet, I think all good, all great. And then there's these other habits that might just take some practice and but have clearly been shown to work. I mean, just practicing eating for physical reasons, not
Yeah,
emotional
most of the
reasons,
time.
most of the time, right?
Let's not go
Yeah.
crazy.
Right. Slowing down your eating, being more
Yep.
mindful, and taking your time to eat, getting off of our computers and social media and everything
Yep.
while
Yep.
while we're eating. Now, you mentioned, I said this in your bio, you have these 5 ancient secrets. So why don't we wrap up and
Okay.
just tell me what those 5 ancient secrets are?
The 5 habits that I tell my clients to develop is learn to eat out of true hunger. most of the time. Again, I'm a realist. Uh, Learn to eat slowly and mindfully. Okay. Learn to stop eating when you've satisfied your hunger. Treat junk food special. Junk food, it was meant to be a treat, not something that you have every single day of the week. Okay. And the last one is, to me, is learn to eat a lot more fruits and vegetables and less meat and processed product. Again, I'm not a vegan, by the way. I like my steaks, but I think we eat way too much meat. We don't need as much meat as they try to push. And to me, if you look at all healthy regions, those 5 things they all have in common. So it's not, I didn't come up with them myself. It's like I just noticed that that's what they all have in common.
Yeah, well, it's like if you read the book, The Blue Zones, right? They do
Yes,
have
yep.
things. I mean, they all eat different foods, but there is a lot of commonalities in the proportions of what they're eating, the
Yep.
nutrients that they're eating, and then the behaviors mostly,
Yes.
most importantly. Well, Stavros, thank you so much for
Thank you, Heather, for
enlightening
having me.
me on just the how part and and educating people on the what to eat. I think that's will be super helpful. And how do people work with you and how can they get in touch with you? And I know you're pretty close by to me. We discovered that you're
Yeah, that's
just a
right.
few towns away from me.
Yeah, no, I do online coaching. Obviously, most people do not live where I'm in Danbury, Connecticut, but they can go on to my website, thepracticalfitnesscoach.com, and they can get all the information about how they can contact me. I do offer a free discovery call for anybody that's interested. They can go on the website and they can sign up for it. And it has a lot of information about how I work and how I help people develop these 5 habits.
Okay, sounds fantastic. I will put all those links in the show notes so
Great.
people can find you and reach out to you. And thank you so much. That was a great conversation on
Thank you.
the Mediterranean way of eating. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And as always, if you loved this podcast, please consider gifting me with a 5-star review. It is so helpful for me to get the word out on real eating, our real bodies, and real food stories. Thank you so much and have a great week. Bye for now.